Hey, you are about to learn about this really tall, pointy structure. Do you know what it's called? Yeah, it's the Washington Monument. The Washington Monument. It was built in honor of this guy, George Washington, one of the founding fathers of the United States of America, the man who led the Continental Army during the American Revolutionary War, and who served as our very first president. That's why it's called the Washington Monument. It's a monument that honors George Washington. All right, now where is the Washington Monument? You know, in case you want to visit it. Well, the Washington Monument is in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. On a United States map, Washington, D.C. is right here, where this yellow dot is. That's where the Washington Monument is. Washington, D.C. and the Washington Monument are both named after George Washington. So is the state of Washington on the west coast of the United States. You can see the state of Washington right here. In fact, the state of Washington has George Washington on its flag. Plus, it's a green flag, and green is my favorite color. That's a pretty cool flag. So there's the state of Washington on the West Coast. They have a green flag with George Washington on it. Then there's Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. And in Washington, D.C., we find the Washington Monument. Now, before we continue, there's a word we need to learn. It's the word obelisk. Obelisk. That's fun to say. Obelisk. Okay, hold up. Why are we learning this word? It's kind of a strange word. Well, we're learning this word because the Washington Monument is an obelisk. An obelisk is a tall monument with 4 sides and a pyramid at the top. That's pretty awesome. Plus, obelisks are made of stone. That's right, they're made of stone. An obelisk is a tall stone monument with 4 sides and a pyramid at the top. The Washington Monument is an obelisk. Speaking of obelisks, obelisks were originally built in ancient Egypt. You can see here an obelisk built in ancient Egypt that is still standing today. Ancient Egyptians often put obelisks at the entrances of their temples. This temple is known as the Luxor Temple. It's in the city of Luxor in Egypt. The Luxor Temple used to have 2 obelisks at its entrance. The second obelisk used to be right here. Now there's just one. I do wonder if this obelisk misses its friend. You know, this obelisk used to have a buddy. I'm sorry, obelisk, okay? I'm sorry. All right, so when you think of the Washington Monument, you can think, hey, it's an ancient Egyptian-style monument. So the Washington Monument honors George Washington. It's in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States, and it's an obelisk, which means it's a tall stone monument with 4 sides and a pyramid at the top, just like the obelisks in ancient Egypt. You know what? We've waited long enough. We have to talk about how tall the Washington Monument is. I mean, it's so tall. Check this out. The Washington Monument is a little over 555 feet tall. Oh my goodness, it's just over 555 feet tall. Compare that height to the height of another tall landmark, the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty is tall, but not nearly as tall as the Washington Monument. The Statue of Liberty is just 305 feet tall. Just 305 feet tall. That means the Washington Monument is about 250 feet taller than the Statue of Liberty. Wow! And it's made of stone. Remember, obelisks are made of stone. The Washington Monument is a stone monument that's a little over 555 feet tall. Now let's think. An obelisk this tall probably took a pretty long time to build. And it did. Construction began in 1848 and was finally completed in 1884. That means it took 36 years to build the Washington Monument. 36 years! That's a long time. I mean, just imagine how they felt when it was done.
Sir, they've completed the Washington Monument.
They have? Great! After 36 years!
Are you gonna visit the monument?
Yeah, we definitely have to check it out. So they finished building the Washington Monument in 1884. It was built in a very special park in Washington, D.C. called the National Mall. The National Mall. Years later, they added some other amazing things to the National Mall, like the Lincoln Memorial. They built the Lincoln Memorial right across from the Washington Monument. Then they built a super huge pool of water called the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool in between the two monuments. Here is the reflecting pool during the daytime. If you look closely, you can see the Washington Monument's reflection in the water. Do you see it? Yeah, you can see its reflection right here. Now this is awesome. The opposite side of the Washington Monument faces the U.S. Capitol building. That's right, the U.S. Capitol building. The Washington Monument is in such an epic spot. One end faces the Lincoln Memorial and the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool, and the opposite end faces the U.S. Capitol building. Wow! If you ever visit the Washington Monument, you can stand on one end and look out at the Lincoln Memorial, and then go to the other side and see the U.S. Capitol building. But it doesn't have to stop there. You can actually go inside the Washington Monument and take an elevator up to an observation deck. And the view from there is amazing. The observation deck gives you a view from 500 feet up. Here's a photo taken from the observation deck facing the Lincoln Memorial and the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool. What a beautiful view. Then you can go to the other side and see the Capitol building. Here's a photo of the Capitol building from 500 feet up the Washington Monument. Wait. Okay, stop the music just for a moment. All right, I just want to take in the view. It's so neat. Do you see the U.S. Capitol building? It's right here. Yeah. Wow, we learned so many cool things about the Washington Monument. It honors George Washington, one of the founding fathers and the very first president of the United States. The Washington Monument is in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. It's in a park called the National Mall, in between the U.S. Capitol building and the Lincoln Memorial. We learned that the Washington Monument is an obelisk. An obelisk is a tall stone monument with 4 sides and a pyramid at the top. And it's a really tall obelisk. Remember, it's a little over 555 feet tall and took 36 years to build. And finally, we learned you can go up the Washington Monument. They have an elevator that takes you to an observation deck that will give you an incredible view. The Washington Monument. It's a neat place to visit. I've been there. It's amazing. You want to visit, Mr. Whiskers? Think of it, a cat visiting an obelisk. Maybe, Mr. Whiskers. Maybe one day. Well, I hope you had a lot of fun learning about the Washington Monument. If you're enjoying the videos and haven't subscribed yet, you can click the subscribe button. That would be really cool. I want to thank all of my patrons who make videos like this possible, and I want to thank you for watching and learning with me. I say this every video, and I mean it. I think you're awesome. Super, super awesome, and I can't wait to see you on the next video.